on CNBC.
Dow Jones Industrial Average gaining a point since we last spoke, gone from 16 to 17 during the commercial. The Nasdaq good for 11 points right now as we have 19 minutes here till we ring the closing bell. Businesses always looking for the next big buck, you know this, and now they may have found it in a new place. 8 million Muslims live in America. That's the same size of the Hispanic community 25 years ago. Average income about $42,000 a year, with 26% earning over $100,000. Question is, what industries are ahead of the game on targeting that group and which are not? That's today's hot topic. Joining us to discuss, Azra Nomani, former Wall Street Journal reporter, author of the book Standing Alone in Mecca, and Stephen Ranzini, president and chairman of Ann Arbor's University Bank. Azra, I start with you. Is it fair to isolate this group as a market because they are Muslim? Is that a fair differentiation to begin with?
It definitely is. You know, while most of America is saying that they're afraid of Muslims, corporate America and Western companies are definitely going after Muslim money. And it's fair to say that it's Muslim money because it's people who are defined by Islamic traditions, like covering their hair, covering their bodies with long outfits and gowns called the hijab, people who don't want to get mortgages with interest. And so it's definitely a market that's defined by Islamic standards.
And so, briefly, how does one go about marketing to that group?
Well, last fall, Nordstrom's, the big retailer, had a fashion show at one of their fanciest malls in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, where they've got a very rich Muslim population, and the fashion show was specifically targeted for the veiled and conservative woman. And so there they had the finest of Western designs with long sleeves, long skirts, and scarves to accent their fashions.
Stephen, what sort of a response has your bank received?
Oh, just tremendous, Dylan. The bank has had local overwhelming interest in the product because there's been no other alternative for the community to do banking without interest, or riba, as the community calls it.
Educate people. In other words, what is different about a Muslim bank in terms of the banking practice in comparison to a more traditional American bank?
Well, the Muslim community carries over the religious prohibition of the early Christian church and the Jewish religion that all interest is prohibited, and they call that in our terms usury, but in Islamic terms riba.
So as a bank, considering that the collection of interest is one of the primary, if not the only, in some cases, revenue generation mechanism, how do you make money as a business and comply with that standard?
You know, Dylan, that was exactly my question when a member of the community first came to me. I said, how do you do banking then if you can't have interest, can't pay or receive interest? Well, the answer is you have to structure products legally very differently. So, for example, in the home financing products, you cannot have a mortgage. So we use structures that look like land contracts and sale leasebacks. We use a Delaware trust structure. It's very complicated legally, and it took us about a year actually to develop the product so that it's legally enforceable and usable in the United States. But at the end of the day, you have a contract which is very different from the standard sort of a contract where all the risk is on the shoulder of the borrower in traditional conventional contracts. In Islamic principles, the contract must be symmetrically risky. So the bank doesn't necessarily have full recourse against the individual. They only have recourse against the property and very limited recourse against the individual.
But where are you getting paid along the way for funding the home?
Sure. Well, there are payments made, and the payments are made actually very comparable in dollar terms. So, for example, if you're getting a mortgage, a conventional mortgage, you might pay $6,000 a year per $100,000 borrowed. Well, in an Islamic structure, you're still going to be paying about $6,000 a year, but that payment is going to be in the term of lease payments and additional rent, as opposed to interest payments. And it's legally structured very differently. Or alternatively, in another product that we've just recently started offering with Freddie Mac, in a strategic partnership with Freddie Mac, a markup sale. So you purchase the home for the customer, and then we in turn sell the home back to the customer in equal monthly installments over a period of time, maybe in this case 30 years, at a marked up price. Well, that profit is Islamically okay. Now, if the customer doesn't pay, yeah.
I'm sorry, I want to get Azra back in. Which businesses do you believe, Azra, this bank being an example of success, are doing the best, most broadly? Is it the retailers? Is it the financial institutions? Are there other businesses that are doing a particularly good job, and are those that are failing?
Well, it's definitely fashion designers who are trying to play to the conservative interpretations of Islam, the financial sector with even mutual fund programs that are based on, Sharia validated investments are doing well also. I've noticed, and I've talked to people who sell halal food. Halal means legal in Islam, and they say that they can't sell well in the grocery stores that are in most of American towns. Now, the one thing that we've got to watch out for is that basically corporate America in the 21st century is accepting as a presumption a lot of very traditional interpretations of Islamic law. And so in this way, it's tough when you get in bed with religion, and they could very well end up being burnt in some cases.
I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thank you very much for both of your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Azra Namani, Stephen Ranzini, as the global marketplace becomes more integrated, a look at patriotism versus protectionism. That coming up in the next hour of the closing bell, as we've got 13 minutes, so we wrap up this trading week. The Dow Jones Industrial